feel a song coming on. Clap, snap, the black crack.
What are we on now? Episode 4? Episode 4. Welcome back to Down to Podcast Town. I'm Tyler.
I'm Nathan.
And we're going to go over today the Witch-King.
Yes, sir. We're going to go over the profile. He's one of the 4 battle host options. You got Mordor, Isengard, Relhan, and Gondor. Witch-King is featured in the battle host, so if you're thinking of getting into the game, he's like one of the featured models in a lot of armies.
Yeah.
And to be quite frank, he's probably one of the best profiles like in the game.
Yeah.
I would think so.
He's an iconic character.
Yeah, he's iconic.
Want to see him on the table.
Yeah. So we're just going to go over his profile a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the lists that you can take him in, because this edition is a little different list building wise than last. One of the main changes with this new edition is, in my opinion, the way you build lists is you find a hero with a cool rule, and then you find what list that hero fits into, and then you build a list that way.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much the way list building works in this edition. What do you think?
I mean, since you opened my eyes to that and had me kind of restructure how I view it, that's helped me a ton. And it kind of allows you to kind of focus on a single model or a single rule, and then you kind of expand your force from there. But if you're also in the theme, this edition allows you to kind of pick a cool scene from the movies, and then kind of play that on the tabletop. Yeah,
and the way that the Witch King can be played in this edition is very different in each army. So he can kind of have a little bit of a different role. His stats will be different. So yeah, I think it's just kind of cool to go over the differences and how he can be played.
Yeah, and then before you jump into the profile, I'll say the reason why we're starting off with the Witch King, this is our first model profile review, is because he's going to end up being in 7 different lists, and we're going to go over those tonight. But the 7 different lists allow you to kind of play this model one type of way, and maybe play it a different type of way, and having somewhat similar models that you can kind of transition to a different army, different style.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, so let's hop into the profile. So, Witch-King of Angmar, points cost varies. That is exactly how it starts off. He's going to be different points levels depending on which army you're taking him in. Generally, he's going to be pretty expensive. There are 3 options that they list out. He's either going to be 80 points with 1 attack, 1 might, 10 will, and 1 fate. 120 points for 2 attacks, 2 might, 14 will, and 2 fate. Or 150 points for 3 attacks, 3 might, 18 will, and 3 fate. And then there are a bunch of like war gear options, potentially giving him a fell beast, or horse, or the crown of Morgul, Morgul blade. Each army has restrictions in what war gear you can add on top of it. Some of them force you to take certain war gear options.
Yeah.
So that's important to keep in mind if you're thinking about playing the Witch King. How, like, if you want him on a fell beast, then that's going to limit your options in which army you can take him in. Yeah. Or things like that.
There's some themey stuff there because, right, like certain lists don't even have fell beasts weren't around yet, so they can't take them. And then like the Crown of Morgul, I think, is the same. Same thing.
Yeah. It's not. They're not in every list.
No.
And let's see. Profile wise, if you're familiar with the last edition, the main change is he's fight 6 as opposed to fight 5. And that's actually a pretty significant change because for the most part, troops, just general warriors, non-hero models are mostly capped at fight 5. There's a few exceptions, so now he just really doesn't have to worry about tying fight value for troops.
Yeah, I think the biggest change from 5 to 6 is that the elves stayed at 5, and before in the last edition, the Witch King would be hesitant to charge elves. They'd be tied fight, and then the Elven Blade would actually have him at a disadvantage. And now, at least just for basic elf troops, he can munch through those now.
Right. Yeah, and so not only is he, I wouldn't say top tier combat hero, he's really good, but he is a top tier caster. And he, depending on which profile loadout you get in your armies, he gets more and more will. He does have a rule where he'll disappear off the battlefield when he runs out of will, so you still have to be kind of careful with that.
Yeah.
But he has pretty much most of the spells that you would want. He's got Compel, Transfix, Drain Courage. Enchanted Blades is new. He did not have that in the last edition.
No.
Which feeds into making him more of a combat profile.
Yeah, or beefing up some other model to do some combat, yeah.
And then Black Dart, Instill Fear, and Your Staff is Broken. And all of those are on pretty decent casting values. So he's kind of going to be able to do whatever you want him to do for the most part.
Really flexible model, but pretty big learning curve. Yeah, because he can do so much that every single time you're going to go to activate him, you're going to need to analyze what the right thing to do with him is.
Yeah, for sure. For the most part, he's going to be the centerpiece of almost every army that he's in. There are a couple of exceptions, but yeah, and I mean, that's pretty much his profile. The Morgul Blade, some people take it, some people don't. That's where if you get a single wound through, you automatically kill someone. Once per game you can use it. It costs 10 points. And then Crown of Morgul, that's different than last edition. Now it has to do with making people not auto-pass their courage checks around him.
Yeah. We're still trying to see if that one's going to be worth the bang for the buck. I think it's still 25 points. But models that actually have spent points to have, maybe bodyguard or certain things that allow them to auto pass, now they're going to get tested again.
Right. Yeah, and then I mean it also helps like with when you break an army, just making sure they can't run, making sure that they have to make that check to run. Yeah. Rather than auto staying around. So there are potentially lots of applications for it. It's just not what it was last edition. So
no. I think his defense being 8, which stayed at 8. Yeah. But it's more, this edition's more of a true defense. Like there's been a swing back to defense because not everything can piercing strike. Even if strength 3 model's going to need a 6x4 to wound him, right? Yeah, 6x4. It can get a little scary if Legolas is shooting him 3 times. Yeah. With the sharpshooter, you might get it. Still only has 1 wound. Still only has 1 wound. So he can, especially if he doesn't have much fate, he can just, if they get a lucky shot, and just kind of poof away, and that's 200 points down the drain. What's his intelligence?
His intelligence is 4+. I mean,
that's something I'm bringing up here because we're going to start going into some of the army lists, and if he's on a fell beast, intelligence is tied to hurling now, and so when you can be really precise with your hurls, which he's going to be a lot of the time on a +4, not a lot of monsters are sitting around at a +4 hurl or a +4 intelligence. So yeah, I think that's another where he has value.
Yeah, there aren't too many intelligent monsters out there.
No.
So you want to just dive into some of the lists?
Yeah. So I'll start off with one of them. We're going to start off with probably one of the few ones where he's not the centerpiece. Yep. But we're kind of just going alphabetical here, and it's in the order of the rule book. Let's see here. We got Barad-dur, right?
Yep, Barad-dur.
So this one is a list where you have to take Sauron. So ironically, the Witch-King is in it, and if you want to play the Witch-King, you can add him to this list. But he will be kind of the number 2 guy. Sauron will be there, and then it probably, like we were talking about earlier, not till higher points are you going to start seeing the Witch-King come out.
Yeah, I would think 700 up. I wouldn't think lower.
Yeah, to fit those 2 big heroes. But in this list, he's the mid-tier version of himself. Yes. He's 2 might, 2 attacks, 14 will, and 2 fate. So 14 will is still a ton when you also have Sauron to cast as well. So you have 2 really strong casters. You can still mount him on a horse, and you can still get the Morgul Blade, but no crown. Not in this one, and no fell beast option. So you would be looking more at either on foot or just mounted on a regular horse. Yeah,
he's still very capable on a horse. He still has 3 attacks. He still fights 6. He can still beat stuff up on that horse. He's just in more of a secondary support role almost. And this is a very expensive support role, but probably the best number 2 support piece in the game in this particular situation, because Sauron's going to be 400 points and he's going to be another 120. So right off the bat there, that's 520, and now you're just supporting outworks pretty much. It's really going to be a 2-person show.
It is. Yeah. I think you'll see it's much harder to get 2 casters into a list these days in this edition. So even at 800 points, because some of these casters are stuck on a Fell Beast or they're just really expensive. So I would imagine, still a big threat and strategy in this list would be, the Compel and then Transfix, right? And then you walk up to something with the Mortal Blade and you just can take it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, in this list, I would play him definitely focusing more on his magic. I don't know if I would put him on a horse, but I might, but because Sauron's going to be the one really whacking on things, and again, he's going to run out of will at some point. If you're casting spells and getting him into combat, he's going to go down really, really quickly, just as a result of that will disappearing. And I think in this list, he has more value transfixing heroes as opposed to, or black darting single model that managed to charge Sauron, so then Sauron can move on.
Yep, do his thing. Yeah, that's true. Release him from his captivity.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's pretty much what you got there. He's, like he said, we'll be talking more in depth on some stuff that he can do in other lists where he's more the focal point. But higher points, Sauron's number 2 guy. It can work here.
Yeah, and it would be a fun list too. Higher points, big Sauron, big Witch King, and a bunch of orcs.
Okay.
All right, list number 2, Black Riders. So this list is all heroes. It's all ring wraiths. It's meant to represent the Nazgul on their horses looking for Frodo in the Shire. There are no warrior options. It's all them on the horses. Yeah, it's all them on the horses. So they lose the Will of Evil special rule where, or no, they don't. That's not the part of it. They don't lose will for being in a fight. They still would disappear if they run out of will, but they don't lose it if they're in a fight.
Correct.
So if you want to play a very themey, cool Black Riders list, this is a good one. It's not as oppressive as it was in the last edition.
No.
Mostly because there have been nerfs to some of the army bonus like magical powers, but also buffs to the ring wraith profile in that they were each given 2 attacks. So they're a bit more fighty. And the way this army really runs, I'll just go over their special rules. An enemy model within range of multiple friendly ring wraith models, Harbinger of Evil, will suffer a -2 penalty to their courage test rather than -1. So in the previous edition, that could scale up, I think, to 3. And it was based on how many models or how many ring wraiths were in range of you. And it would scale up based on it would stack. This one, it's much easier to get to the -2 because you only need 2 ring wraiths, but it's capped at 2. So there's a little bit of a trade-off. It's easier to get to that number. But there's more counterplay because previously you could get locked out pretty quickly from even trying to charge these Nazgul. But it's still a really good ability because you're going to have a low model count army, and low model count army with terror, it just helps your survivability. This is a cool ability, the Screech of the Nazgul. So a friendly ring wraith model can use the special rule at the start of their activation. If they do so, choose an enemy model within 12 inches and line of sight of the ring wraith. The chosen model is immediately subject to the Transfix magical power, which will count as being cast on the 6. They may take a resist test as normal. Here's the change to this new edition. A Ring Wraith model that uses this special rule cannot also cast a magical power during their activation, and only a single Ring Wraith can use this special rule each turn. Each Ring Wraith can only use this special rule once per game. So, in the previous edition, you could get screeched at multiple times if you happen to resist the first one.
Lucky enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get another one.
Yeah. And so now you're limited to only screeching one time. It's still a very powerful ability. And it's just a little bit more moderated now.
Yeah, and it's just adjusted in the context of this edition. Technically, it's still the same thing. It's still a channeled transfix because now channeling is an auto 6. Well, that's still happening here. It's just out of the previous edition, you would channel and it would half my fight value.
Yeah, it was super nasty.
Super nasty. Yeah. So now it's just nasty. It's still nasty.
Yeah.
So then you already touched on the next one, right? With the Will of Sauron.
Yep. And then Hunt of the Ring Bearer. This is if you happen to be fighting against a Ring Bearer.
Yep.
Which won't happen too often. At the start of the fight phase, before any other heroic actions are declared, a single friendly Ring Wraith may declare heroic combat for free. This can only be done if, should the heroic combat be successful, the Ring Wraith could charge the Ring Bearer. If the heroic combat is successful, the Ring Wraith must charge the Ring Bearer, though any other models involved in the heroic combat may act as normal. If both players declare a heroic combat in the fight phase, in which this special rule is used, this player will automatically win the roll-off to see which heroic combat goes first. However, this heroic combat declared by the special rule must be the one chosen to go first. So it's kind of niche.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, not going to come up too often. But, I mean, I guess it's cool if it happens.
Yeah, I think to play this list, it would be one that you grow into. I think it's not a
starter list.
Not at all. You have minimal troops. There's not that much customization for points because the Wraiths are 110 every time. There's no adjustment of will or anything like that. They're all going to be on the horse, so depending on what points level you're trying to fit into, it may not always work perfectly. But yeah, I mean,
also tracking all of the heroic stats is a kind of a task, especially for a new player. If you have 7, 8, 9 models all with 10 will, 14 will, tracking every single one is a chore, and it can take a lot of time. So it's not always, and most of the game becomes bookkeeping at that point. So especially for a newer player, it's not the most intuitive, it's not the most free-flowy army to play, but it is very themey, and it's still a good army. It's just one of those that might take a little bit of investment to get right.
The one thing I do want to just caveat here with at the end is I am surprised that they don't have a special rule in here that they have Fell Sight. I think that would fit. I think that Ring Wraiths, maybe just this specific group, because their whole thing is like hunting in the dark and they're kind of chasing the Ring Bearer. With the Ring Wraiths now only having 1 fate and 1 wound, and you have to be able to look at me first to charge me. With it being combat, it just seems like, like you were bringing up earlier, Legolas just shooting into you. I mean, bro, if you want to set yourself up to charge me next turn, you're out in the open. Heroic accuracy, and you're done.
Well, you don't even need that with Legolas because he's charging.
No.
Yeah, but that's a Legolas problem.
No, I'm thinking I said heroic accuracy because you have other heroes that just like a regular ass Haldir just with 5 elves bows.
Yeah. I mean,
110 points is off the board. With 2 wounds, you get 2 wounds through, he's out. So yeah, interesting. I think that could have been a good adjustment if they're trying to make it more combat-y.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a list to play that's themey, that's all Wraiths, go ahead and go for this one.
I got this one.
Yeah.
If you want to play a list that is very themey and is more or less for one moment in the movies, one where I don't think the Ring Wraiths win. So keep that in mind when you're picking this one. This is Wraiths on Wings. It just has 2 special rules, so it's not really anything crazy. One of them is basically you charge into models and you get strength 5 hits when you charge them. The other one is fly over models and try to rip them apart while you fly over them. So I don't think we're going to go into this one too deep because this is pretty much all ring wraiths on fell beasts.
Yeah, ring wraiths. So rather than wraiths on the horses, it's wraiths on fell beast. So you're even getting less models per army, depending on importance level. The army bonuses are okay.
Yeah.
The amount of investment you have to make, just real dollars to make this army happen, is kind of high, and then you probably are going to do it once and be done.
What are fell beasts run for? Are they the ring wraith on fell beast? Is that $70 now?
Something like that. Yeah.
So 3 of these. It's a little pricey.
Yeah.
Now if you already have the Witch-King on a fell beast from that you're going to use in another list, and you have to get 2 more, which still. That's only going to get you to 510 points though, man. And that's still a weird, funky points level. No one's playing 510 point tournaments, So you can't get to 500 with this list, really. It's 2 models and you're short a ton of points.
Yeah. There's just not much here for people. I think it's fun for people who might already have, the ring wraiths on fell beast, and now they're like, oh yes, I can use them, and they can come and play with them. But I wouldn't look at this and be like, oh, I need to go out and buy a bunch of wraiths on fell beast just to play this. It doesn't, to me, that's not worth it. But,
no. If you have the models and you want to play around with it every once in a while, that could be fun. But just be prepared that you don't have much on the table, and the special rules they're not really taking this list to the top, So, yeah. All right, moving on.
Yes, sir.
So that's 3 of them, right?
That's 3 down.
Cool. So we got 3 of them. 1 where he's kind of a sidekick, 2 where it's a little more just all wraiths.
Yeah.
So now I think we're going to get more into ones where
there's more army construction.
Yeah.
So Legions of Mordor. So this is the soupy list, the soupy evil list, where it's just kind of everything, for the most part, evil that showed up at Pelennor. It was you can play Mummics, you can play the Witch King. You have to take him on his armored fell beast. You've got orcs, you've got Haradrim, you can play Easterlings. So this is a list I would play if you like a wide variety in your models. If you want to start off the game with a battle host and then you're like, oh, a Mummic is cool, or Mordor Catapult is cool, a Troll is cool. Pretty much if you're looking at most things evil, they can come into this list.
Yeah, no, I will actually argue that you cannot use a battle host with this. In fact, I don't think any models in the Mordor battle host go into this list,
right.
Which is insane.
Mordor orcs and
Ward Riders, and then you have to take them on the fell beast. So
nothing. Yeah,
strike that.
Yeah.
But I get the point you're trying to make.
Oh no, you can use the Witch King on foot.
But that's this list, we believe, is at a point in the game where it'll be more flushed out once the Armies of Middle-earth book comes out.
Yes.
And you get more profiles, you get some variety of heroes that are missing. But this list is supposed to, in my opinion, represent Mordor's full, gamut of guys coming together.
Yeah,
the whole ally.
It's everything Sauron brings to bear to
Minas Tirith.
Yeah, and the world of men, right? So it like we said, it's got a wide variety of stuff, but it's going to have even more with this 3rd supplement. And in my opinion, it could actually become, depending on how they do it and if the profiles are similar to last edition, it might shoot up and be a really, really good army if you're able to bring the Witch King and the Dragon Emperor and or Andur or Suladan. There's some really powerful heroes that in last edition that are kind of waiting to come in. And if they all fit into this list, which they might, because I don't know, maybe the Dragon Emperor not, right? Because he's up in Erebor, but but Amdur still. So like,
or Suladan.
yeah, or Suladan. So there's a few big profiles that can be added to this list that I think would potentially change the competitive outlook.
Yeah. Because right now, I think the problem with this Legion, right? And if I know we're talking about the Witch King, so right now, he is a minimum 245 points, right?
Big
so
investment.
if you're playing a 500 point game, you're pretty much stuck with him and maybe one other hero, and then you're feeling it on the total model count because you've invested a lot in your heroes. But the reason I'm expecting more out of this list down the road is they specifically did not list in the additional rules that a specific model must be the general.
This is one of the lists where you don't actually have to take the Witch King.
No.
That's just the topic of our discussion, so we're acting like he is in the list. But you don't have to take him. You can take other things in this army. This is one of those lists where I'd say, like I said, if you like a spread, if you want to paint some Easterlings, if you want to buy a Mummic, like this would be a list that you could look at, because then you could actually play most of the models that you're painting out.
A lot of scalability here.
But yeah, specifically for the Witch King, this is his full kit, right? He's 3 attacks, 3 might, 18 will, 3 fate, Crown of Morgul, armored Felbeast, 245 points. So he's going to be doing everything for you. He has to.
Yeah, and I think that I'm good with that because they do emphasize that in the movies that, when Gandalf is sitting there talking to Pippin, like, hey, they still haven't unleashed their biggest weapon yet. And then they kind of pan over and
he's getting put the crown.
He's getting pimped out, right? Like they're adding everything to him. So that does fit here. Pretty themey. So when you play this, and if you were to bring the Witch King, he is going to be at his strongest.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely will be. Go ahead, next one.
This is probably one of the more popular lists right now in the game.
Yes.
Minas Morgul. We just saw them at our last tournament in February. They took second and third.
Yeah.
Played 2 different ways. So this is kind of nice because this list does allow for some flexibility. If you look at the Witch King in this list, he has a ton of different options to build him out. Felbeast, armored Felbeast, crown, horse, Morgul blade, 2-handed weapon. Those are all additions, none of which are required. He is required to be the general though in this list. This list gives all of his Mordor orcs and Mordor orc captains the Blade of the Dead special rule, which that's really appealing to people right now. Yeah. Because with that rule, you're fighting against enemy's courage.
Yes. You're
wounding against that.
Yeah.
And then then you have some anti-terror abilities here because your orcs can auto-pass courage if they're within 3 inches of a friendly spirit. And it's a spirit model, it's not a spirit hero. So you bring just a regular 15-point Spectre in this list, spirit. He's giving off his own little 3 bubble for the orcs to pass.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. Like that's like when you take a step back and think about it, like so many profiles are paying for that bodyguard or whatever.
Yeah.
And like you can just drop a 15-point Spectre and give all those orcs within 3 fearless, essentially.
Yeah.
Crazy.
To tie up a troll.
Yeah.
To go into something with terror, to tie up a wizard. It could be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this list, because the Witch King is customizable, and he's not required to be on the beast or on the horse or whatever, you can really add up and get a lot of orcs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Tyler said, the army bonus lends itself to these orcs actually hitting kind of above their weight class.
For sure.
They're pretty nasty, especially if they're going against an evil army. Because you can also take the Morannon orcs, which is kind of like a redundancy thing because they're strength 4. So like if you happen to go against a high courage army, they are at least still doing a good job.
Yeah. They're there to wear the armor.
Yeah, but I think most people just like bringing a bunch of Mordor orcs.
Yeah.
For the Blades of the Dead stuff. This list, you got a Witch King. You can kind of do what you want with him. You have a really cool army bonus. It's a very popular list right now.
Yeah.
Probably the most played list with him in it, I would say.
Yeah, and as a new player, if you're looking at this is one that you go and buy a $90 Battle Host box, right? You get a 24 orcs, You get 24 Mordor orcs. You get 6 Ward Riders.
Mm-hmm.
You move those Ward Riders to the side. You don't have to even build those yet.
No.
You build your Witch-King on a horse, right?
Yep.
And then you take 24 orcs and you make one of the orcs a captain.
Yeah.
And you just go out there and have some fun. And you're playing right away. It'd probably get you 400 points. Or
And it would be a good army. It wouldn't be bad.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah. This would be a good starter army.
Cool.
All right, on to the next one, which out of the box, this is the Battle Host army that you can play.
Yes.
Host of the Witch King. So this is meant to represent him at the height of his powers when he is in Angmar and he's taken over the Northern Kingdom, Arnor.
Mm-hmm.
So in this list, let's see, he gets a couple of cool special rules. First, like the orcs within 3 inches of spirit heroes gain terror, which is kind of was the staple mainstay buff that Angmar players use. Last edition.
Mm-hmm.
He gets the next 2 abilities. I think really kind of, I wouldn't say pigeonhole, but they really stress the importance of combat for him. He only loses will for having been in a combat if he loses a combat during the fight phase. So again, remember, he has that will of evil when he's fighting. He usually loses a point of will. Whenever you cast a spell, he loses a point of will. If he goes out, he's gone. So in this army, as long as he's winning his combats, he's sticking around. And then he also, if he's engaged in combat with a man model, he gains a bonus of +1 to his fight value. I think that is huge because there are so many fight 6 man heroes out there that are really good, like Eomer right now.
There's fight 7s too.
Yeah, fight 7s, which is important for him to get up to tie.
Yeah. But there are a lot of 6s.
There are a lot of 6s, which now he just flat out beats their 7s that he comes up in ties now, like Boromir or Earnor.
Because I think Boromir's 7, right? And then Earnor's 6 still?
Oh.
Did he say it's 6 or?
I feel like he was. I don't know. I actually don't remember.
Okay.
I think he's.
Faramir's 6.
Faramir's at 6.
Yeah. But then Aragorn's at 7. But like you're tying him, so you're getting him. You're forcing him to
it's such a big middle finger to man heroes.
Yeah.
It just completely messes with them.
Which is ironic because if the thematic of it is that he's fighting against Arnor.
Yeah.
And Arnor doesn't have a single hero that goes above 6. They're all 5. So it's like
goes and stomps on him.
It's just like and I got that extra on you.
Yeah.
So
in case they want to strike up.
When they want to strike up, which is just the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess Aranath has strike too, but those 2 heroes when they want to strike up, you have a 33% chance of getting above the Witch King.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
not great.
It's not great. So he's pretty great in combat. Now, because it's him in Angmar, he doesn't get his Fell Beast. That would have put him over the top, in my opinion, of like super good combat hero.
Like 7 Fell Beast.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have that. So he can get on his horse, which is still really good. I would definitely take him on a horse in this Legion. And this army in particular is a little more magic-y, right, compared to the other Mordor lists, because you can get Shades, you can get Barrow Whites, Shamans, I think the Shadow of Rudar is in there.
I think Shadow's in there too,
so if you do get a Battle Host, you can play this army right away with everything, including the Ward Riders. If you like more magic-y type of theming stuff, again, this is a really good one to pick. Yeah,
on the magic comment, I will say this. So, because will is tied to them fighting, the Wraiths typically, but in this one, he's not losing will if he wins a fight, right? So, in a way, he can become a stronger caster in this one, because you can choose to be like, I'm going to roll 2 dice on this, I'm not going to lose my combat later.
Right.
It's a dice game, you could still lose it. But, you might be a little more confident about winning your fights and having more will. So then, therefore, that would translate over to more dice being thrown at spells.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's definitely this, along with I think Minas Morgul, I think are the top armies to run him
Yeah.
Then he just gets different buffs, right? Minas Morgul, he's on the Fell Beast. On this one, he can get up to fight 7, and he doesn't lose the will for fighting. So it's really just a matter of preference and how you want to run them, because they both have Mordor orcs in them.
Yeah.
They're similar.
I think for me the two differences are what you're bringing around that model.
Yes.
Right. This list may come across more magic heavy, and you might be able to shut down some heroes more. The other list, you'll still have some ability to shut down heroes, but you're hoping that your orcs with the numbers are just killing their troops on the courage.
Yeah.
This list, you're gonna probably rely on Aldrak as your big hitter, other than the Witch-King.
Yeah.
And then the other list, you're kind of leaning more on a troll, right?
Yeah, the troll is your main second hitter.
Yeah. Other than that's where you're bringing the Fell Beast probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a host of Witch-King, fun army, and yeah.
If you're looking for that list and you get lost in the books or trying to find it, that was one that was sent out on the Rise of Angmar PDF. So,
yeah.
So it's on the website. It's on.
Yeah. There's no physical book with that one.
Yeah. Alrighty, I'll cover this last one. This is like a caveat situation, and we just wanted to list it because we feel like you're some sort of Witch-King diehard.
I've been waiting for the comments. You missed one.
You missed one. Yeah. This would be like your last little way to get him on the board. This is a completely different profile. This is where he is in The Hobbit, and he's just a Nazgul of Dol Guldur. And they actually you still call it the Witch-King of Angmar. And his buffs are just, he gets fight 6 again, and then he has 3 points of might rather than 1. So
he doesn't cast spells, right? He's completely different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
You have to look into this list and see what the Rise of the Necromancer does. It's more about like getting killed and resurrecting, but specifically for what he does different than the others is that his fight value is 6. So there's value there, and then he has 3 points of might, up from 1. All the other ones have 1 now.
Yeah.
He still kept 3.
Yeah, he's definitely the number 1 option to take after the Necromancer in the list.
Yeah, you're right.
And the list itself is fun. I'm looking forward to running it. I haven't yet because I liked the Rise of the Necromancer Legion from last edition, but I didn't like that it was all heroes. Now you can put spiders in it. You can put the hunter orcs in it, and you can have a bunch of numbers but still have that really cool double casting Necromancer with all this nastiness and Nazgul that don't die.
I mean, in reality, you could run him as the leader. You don't have to take the Necromancer.
Oh, you don't?
He doesn't have to be your general.
Okay.
I forgot about that. They changed that.
Okay.
He doesn't have to be your general. So you can make him.
Yeah.
The Witch-King could be your focal point, and he can just have a bunch of hunter orcs with him and fell wargs and spiders.
Yeah.
If that's kind of sounding appealing to you.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah, I think it's a fun looking army. I'm not sure about competitive wise, like bringing it to a big tournament.
No.
But it's a different army. Like we said, he's not the same as all those other armies we talked about.
All the magic is gone. He doesn't cast anything, but he can still fight. And so if that's kind of what you're into, and you want to try like leaning into more of like some of the Hobbit profiles and branching into that, there is a different actual model for this Witch-King.
And he's in the what is it called? Just the Nazgul of Dol Guldur pack or something like that. It's insanely expensive.
Yeah. And if you were playing this and wanted to try it out and just play this,
it is a really cool model. I have it. I've painted it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But
I don't think
it is very pricey.
I don't think you'd have a problem proxying the other run if you wanted to try this out for a little bit and have the hunter orcs. So.
No.
Yeah. I think they've covered everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
What are your in conclusion here? If you were a new player and getting into the game, what would be kind of like your high level? Why would you play the Witch-King? What are your
I would, if I was a new player coming in, Witch-King is iconic. He's he's not an obscure model. If you have him on the table, anyone who's seen Lord of the Rings knows what he is.
Yeah.
He's also just one of the best models in the game. So knowing that, you're taking a cool model that everybody knows. It's not just a cool model, it's a very good model. And he gives you a ton of options. Spell casting is really good. It's still really good in this edition. Fighting, he's great at it. And he can be taken in a lot of different lists. Some heroes are kind of restricted to only a couple lists, but he can be played a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I think for me, it's one of those games where if you bring the Witch King, you're rarely gonna feel like you didn't have an answer to your opponent.
Right.
If you're gonna go play a game for 2 hours somewhere and you just put your pieces across the table from someone else and you're like, I have nothing that can answer that, and you're just gonna get railroaded. You rarely will have that experience if you're playing the Witch King, because either the magic will shut them down or the ability to combat and fight will counter it. But there is a learning curve, because you're, like I said, I'm going back to that a little bit, and that can be fun. The learning curve of a game can be fun, and you could play in one game and learn how to do the magic better. And the next time you can learn how to put him in good spots for fights. He's very readily available, I think, is also
that's a plus. And I think a lot of these armies that he's in, you can buy them secondhand on eBay. Like, there are Mordor orcs that are just like floating around. You can pick up like on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or something. Like, the accessibility for his lists are it's pretty easy to get into them.
A couple of these lists have trolls, and trolls in the previous edition weren't as strong, so they might still be floating around eBay. People just
I don't think they're running many Forge World models or anything either, so they're not. Even if you were to buy them straight from GW, it's not like you're paying that Forge World tax.
No. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that pretty much covers it, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so if you guys like this one, we're going to be doing some more of these with some of the other heroes that we like to highlight. Go into their lists and go into their profiles.
Yeah, that was our hope, because there's a lot of just list reviews and stuff, and we were like, well, let's just highlight some of the big heroes that can be taken in all these different ways. So the first in the series for us.
Hope you liked it. Join us next time.
See you next time.